Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We've got Michelle. Yes. So, what I want to do first is just make sure that you can see and hear. Can you see the mouse moving? Can you hear me? If you can put a yes, loud and clear. Everybody's saying you can hear me. Great. Thank you for that. So, we're going to try and do something which we often fail with. We're going to try to keep this to under an hour, but of course, it does depend on the questions that you ask us, and we will take as many as we can. If we don't get to your question, I apologize in advance, but sometimes, if you have a question later, um, it's a more deeply thought question. So you can always contact us later, and we'll be happy to try to give you an answer if we can. In a moment, I'm going to speak to Josh and John, and we'll get started pretty quickly. But let's talk about what this webinar is about. So it's a big thing, a big promise. 0 to 11,500 subscribers, 5.5 grand from YouTube in just 6 months. You may think that sounds like a long time. You may think it's very quick. Actually, because it's got a kind of a snowball effect, in reality, it's less than 6 months. But the overall process was 6 months. And the point about the training we're going to be talking about is to avoid you having to spend 3 or 4 months learning what doesn't work. Because if you avoid what doesn't work, you save time. And if you save time, you can spend more of it on doing the things that work. Very obvious, I know, but we see so many people who fail because they don't do that initial research or use a shortcut by finding somebody who's done it for them. And that's really what we're talking about. So the format of the webinar is going to be a bit of fun. We haven't done this for quite some time. We're going to put John through his paces. We're going to grill him. He thinks he's getting 3 questions, but I know you'll all ask hundreds of them. But we've got 3 big questions we want to ask him, which are really the foundation of success on YouTube and what you can achieve with it. And there's a discount offer on the training at the end, so stick around for that. We may show you the one-time payment offer fairly quickly, because I know sometimes people are busy and can't stay with us. But let me just make sure that John and Josh are here and the sound is good. John, Josh, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi,
And
John,
I'm
and
here.
Josh as well. Cool.
Yep.
So what we'll do, I think, is just for a moment, we'll give John a second or two to think about the questions. So, John, there's 3 questions I'm going to ask you and we'll examine properly. But they're going to be, first of all, the money side. How much can you make? And, the kind of numbers that people talk about as average, are they accurate? Are they too low? Are they too high? The second question is going to be one about speed, because nobody wants to spend the next 10 years learning how to make money. People want to make money tomorrow if possible. And I know that you've found some particular shortcuts to that. So we're going to kind of pull as much of that from you as we can. And then the final question that we're going to ask you, well, certainly from me and Josh, is going to be about monetization outside of the Google YouTube Partner Program. So Google will share some advertising revenue with you if you reach a certain point, but there are ways to make money outside of that. And I know that we have at least a few people who are interested in that because they really want to control their own financial destiny rather than just rely on effectively a handout from Google. So if you can start thinking about those 3 questions for us, please. And I know that you go into tremendous detail in the video series, of course, but what we're looking for really is kind of the bullet points of those questions. I'll repeat them when we get to that, but does that sound fair enough?
Yeah, that works. And just
Cool.
to update the numbers that you showed at the beginning,
Have they changed already?
as of right now, I'm looking at it on my phone. I have 12,234 subscribers, and the net total, including the third-party system I use, Patreon, is at about $6,500 as of right now.
So we only sent these numbers out a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will work now. I mentioned the snowball effect earlier.
Yeah, well, I'm
So
I'm putting more
yeah,
emphasis on Patreon now, and I'm
right.
glad your third question talks about that because I do think that's important.
Yeah, I think it's a very important one because some people may not necessarily even be eligible for the AdSense, but there are other
Yeah,
ways to monetize. And let's be honest, if you can have more than one egg in one basket, there's a safety net. If you have multiple streams of income, they can grow at the same speed as the entire channel, which is great. But you've also got several degrees of redundancy and safety built in, which I think is important these days, because we know that Google sometimes takes platforms away from people and all kinds of other things. So
yeah,
we're going
and
to be talking about,
they did that.
sorry.
Well, I'll talk about it when we get to it. But yeah, there's very good reasons to not put all
Yeah,
your eggs in one basket.
absolutely. So we're talking about YouTube, which is now you've actually said, I think, on the sales page that it's the second biggest search engine in the world,
Yep, as
and
of
it's
noon.
behind Google itself. So actually, so are we saying that Google has two search engines?
Yeah, YouTube really is. It's a giant search engine. It's just a search engine for video instead of a
Right.
search engine for,
Yeah.
text content.
Right.
And it's also the second most trafficked website behind Google.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's 2.5 billion users watching. Forget the exact number, but it's billions, plural,
Yeah.
of hours of video every day.
I think Josh has some stats on that, but we're going to have a look at those stats in a moment. And people consume this content on their mobile devices, on tablets, on their, even on their TV screens now. You have smart TVs with apps. You can watch YouTube and so on. So there's a lot of ways to access the content, and that means that there's a big, big market who, kind of get these videos on demand kind of thing. So let's jump in straight away and start asking these questions. And big one, of course, for most people is money. So there's a thing called CPM. So if you could just tell us what that means and what most people say you'll get for a CPM.
Sure, but before I answer that, let me just make a statement real quick. And I talk
Please.
about this in the sales video and throughout the course, that I didn't start my channel with money as the goal. And the fact that it's done so well, despite the fact that money isn't the goal, it's an activism channel, and I have a message I'm trying to get out. But of course, spending the time to do that costs money, and you have to be able to put time into it. That costs money, the equipment costs money, all of that. So money makes the world go round, and it's required. But my point in saying that is my market is very small because it's targeting a very specific segment of about 20 million people, which sounds like a lot of people, but it's not in comparison to the world population and what you can reach on YouTube. It's very small. So when I give you my numbers are a fraction of what you can achieve if you're targeting a larger market than I am, and if your goals are different than mine. But I go into a lot of detail about that in the course as well. I just wanted to say that up front.
I think that's important, but there are two things that come to mind from what you've just said. The first is that you are not restricted to a single niche market. So even if you have a small marketplace or audience, which yours is technically small, there's nothing to stop you replicating the techniques you've used on a different niche if you choose to.
Yeah, that's
And
true. And I actually have plans to do that with a couple of guys that often come on my channel. So yeah,
right,
I'll
yeah.
follow up with you guys on that whenever we see if it comes about.
And that actually is that phrase that I love in a way, but I hate it. And I know you've all heard it, rinse and repeat. If the things that you do work on one YouTube channel to grow the audience, they will work on another channel. It'd be a different niche, different audience, but the techniques that work across the various channels. There may be slight tweaks here and there, but if you think that just having 5 or 6 grand coming in from YouTube isn't enough for you, if you have big plans, start a second channel with some extra content, or scale up on your first one.
Yeah, or
So
target a bigger market. I mean, like I
yeah,
said, my
yeah.
market's so small. It's so small and it's not commercial at all. And yet this has been possible in such a short period of time. So
And
Well, let me
John,
play.
a lot of
Sorry,
that
go ahead.
revenue I think has come in the past few months too. If I'm correct, I think
yeah,
it
yeah,
started off a trickle, and now a lot of that's in recurring monthly revenue that's built up just over the past couple months.
yeah, about let's see, let me do the math real quick. Real quick.
Now, while John is doing that,
35% of my total earnings has happened in the last 28 days.
right
So
now,
a third of everything in the last 6 months has
That's
happened in the
pretty.
last month.
That's
but
pretty significant.
let's explain something about that, because before we talk about the actual cash side of things, if you make a video today and you get 10 views, then the chance of somebody clicking on an advert or going off to Patreon or whatever is quite small. But if you get another 10 views tomorrow, and then another 10 views tomorrow, 12 views tomorrow, 15 views tomorrow, as it grows, you will get an aggregated snowball effect, which means you're likely to get more clicks. The longer that video is online, the more total viewers you will get, more eyeballs on the video, the more chance for adverts to be served, and the more chance for clicks to be made, which means the money increases. So you get an upward trend on the graph simply because it's been there longer. It's not rocket science, but if you have a video that's been online for 2 minutes, you've got a 2-minute time period when you can make some money with it. If it's online for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, then it's going to make more simply because it's there, and as your channel grows, more people are going to look at your other videos and so on, and you can refer them to your other videos. If you make a brand new one today, you can say, by the way, I talked about this 6 months ago and here's what's changed, and people will go see the other one. So there's a snowball effect. And so it's not really that surprising that John's just told us that the last 28 days produced 35% of his income, because that's exactly what you would expect, really, as things grow on top of the growth. So real audience question now, or me as the audience, John. Great that you're doing an activism channel. Let me be blunt. I don't care. I want to make money. Talk to me about the money. Show me the money. if I can put it, you know what I mean anyway.
Right. Well, to get back to your initial question, what is CPM? Well, CPM is how much, now what YouTube shows you is how much YouTube is taking in total per 1,000 views of your videos. And that's per 1,000 paid views, because not every view is a paid view for a couple of reasons. And YouTube pays you half of that. Now, I had always read, before I ever did a channel, we had talked about it in the past before, and when a couple of years ago, when I was first really getting into video creation, I had read that the average YouTube channel earns $1 to $2 per 1,000 views CPM. But of course, you only get half of that. So you're talking 50 cents to $1 per 1,000 views. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like much. It really doesn't. And it's not, but at least for my channel, it's also a very inaccurate number, because that number, from what I've found in my channel, isn't the earnings per 1,000 views, it's the earnings per ad per 1,000 views. And that's a very, very different thing, because one YouTube video can contain multiple ads. And fortunately, YouTube gives you control over where to put those ads. So, and what kind of ads you want to show. So if you show ads periodically throughout longer form videos, you earn a lot more than just $1 per 1,000 views. My average right now is about $4.50 per 1,000 views. So anywhere from 2 to 4 times more than what I was reading is possible.
Okay, I told you we'd do 3 questions, but you know I'm a liar, so I'm going to add a second one onto this first one, because I think it would be an interesting question. If you take, let me just make some numbers. Suppose it takes you 4 hours to make that first video. And when you've got your 1,000 views and you're partnered and so on, you get some clicks and you make some money, $4 or $5 or whatever. That's cool. But you're not doing any extra work on that video. So at that point, it becomes purely passive income.
Yes.
If you get another 1,000 views, on average, I don't mean, we can't promise it, but on average, so the next 1,000 views, are you likely to make another $4 or so?
Yes.
And no extra work, so
no
it grows.
extra work. Yeah. What's great about that is YouTube shows you, it gives you graphs and analytics for all this, and I cover it all in the course. It shows you how your earnings are doing over time for every video, and also shows you an aggregate for your whole channel, how are you doing over time. But you can really dig into your videos that make the most money, and of course, YouTube lets you sort by all of these things and see the videos that are your top earners, and you can look at them and say, well, what did I do differently with this video that it's doing so well compared to the others? And that really does help. That helped me to discover, okay, which video platform do people like the most, and what should I stick to the most that's getting the most interest from people? Because remember, for me, it's not about the money, it's about the message, but that doesn't matter. My goal is still similar in that I want as many views as possible. Just like if you're in it for the money, you want as many views as possible so you can get the most ad revenue as possible. So I still have to take all the same steps that someone who is primarily at this for the income has to take. And fortunately, because of that, all of that, everything that I've learned translates into a commercial market.
Now, it's interesting because what I'm hearing you say there is that Google is actually giving you the statistics you need to rinse and repeat the good stuff that works.
Yes, very much. And
Perfect.
it's funny that like with AdSense, Google's reporting, I mean, it's okay, but it's not easy. You have to go in and set up all kinds of channels and things on your own to really get a handle on where your income's coming from. But YouTube breaks all of that down for you. So you don't have to set up anything. I mean, there you can't. There's no way to go in and add your own specific analytics, but they break it down so much for you in a way that even the AdSense platform does not. That it's, I don't know why Google doesn't do the same thing with AdSense that they do with YouTube. YouTube's analytics are fantastic.
Yeah, and what a shame not to use them. I mean, one of the biggest data crunching organizations on the planet is telling you what works and what doesn't.
Yep.
So I don't think it's a big surprise that you're getting a 2 to 3 times higher CPM, you know, revenue for 1,000 views compared to what other people are saying.
Yeah.
Because
I got a very short story about that.
please.
Because I watch a lot of other videos on how to improve my own channel. And there's this one, I can't remember her name. She's a young girl, very, very great at videography, very impressive quality for someone who hasn't been doing this for very long. Uh, and she had this video that reached like 2 million views about how to increase your YouTube earnings. And apparently she didn't know for a long time until recently that she could put multiple ads inside one video. So her video was just about putting multiple ads inside one video. And it just goes to show you, that's when I realized why all of these people who were publishing these erroneous statistics about $1 to $2 per thousand, why they were publishing them erroneously. Because apparently a lot of people don't realize that they don't have to just take the default one ad at the front that YouTube does by, by default. You can
Yeah.
go in there and customize all that yourself. And I didn't know that at first either, but the second I learned that, being, in the marketing industry most of my life, I'm like, what? So I jumped in there and started changing everything. And that's when things really started to pick up.
Well, I think that's a good example of why somebody who's already made the mistakes is the person to listen to, because they can save you making those same mistakes.
Yeah,
So, I
no
mean, that's
question. And I did.
yeah,
I made a lot of mistakes and I tried
yeah,
everything. I threw the kitchen sink at it because that's just how, as a marketer, you learn to do that. Throw something at it and see what works and keep throwing new things at it and see what works.
yeah, and that really is the big thing about the training, is that the months you would spend learning how to do this, and maybe not even learning all these individual points, you can sidestep it. If you could if you could start at the point where everything's already correct, I mean, just think how much time you save. But the other thing is, that means 6 months down the line for you would be significantly better than 6 months down the line from John. So the second channel he's going to make, he's not going to take 6 months to get to this level, because he
Right.
won't be doing those same mistakes. Now, look, we're talking about time there, John. So that's kind of neat for the second question, which is, and somebody else was asking this. Let me have a look. Stephen was asking, how did you get this verified for adverts so quickly? And my second question was, how quick can a channel start to take off on its own? Because, speed is important. It would be nice if we could have success in a week. We know it's not realistic, but nobody wants to wait 2 years. So what's realistic and how do we do it?
Well, as far as what's realistic, I keep going back to this because I'm in such a tiny market. I would think that it would take me longer to get to where I needed to be in order to be approved. And I talk about this in the course because at first, YouTube does not have enough data on your videos to determine whether or not it's worth YouTube's time to spread your videos out. So
Yeah.
initially you have to do the footwork, and that means being active on social media, getting people to subscribe and watch your videos, kind of networking with other people in similar related markets to kind of grow it a little bit at the beginning. But as soon as YouTube has enough data on your videos, it's a matter of paying attention to the analytics and improving upon what's already working. So it only took me a few months to get approved. I think I'm trying to look that up right now. Let me see when that happened. Give me 1 second, I'll tell you, because I got it in front of me. I was approved at the middle of like third week of January. Okay. And so by then I had only had the channel for about 6 weeks. And so for the last 6 months or so, I've actually been earning something from the videos. And so it only took me about 6 weeks to get the 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time that are necessary to submit my channel for review. And so I immediately submitted it for review as soon as I got there. And it said on YouTube that it would take about a month for them to approve it, but it didn't take them a month. I don't even think it took them 2 weeks. So it from there, I started to be able to earn, and so I started to be able to look at those analytics and see what was working.
Well, that's pretty quick. Although I know for some people it may sound, having to wait 2 weeks for an answer sounds like a long time. But in reality, once this is built, the channel is going to continue to grow, and where you are in a year is going to be totally different from where you are today. So the spade work that you do to prepare the ground and plant
Yeah,
the seed and so on.
that's the bottom line. When
Yeah,
you first start, how much groundwork, that grassroots effort you're willing to put in
yeah.
through various social media platforms. Like I use Twitter a lot. Through those various platforms, that's going to determine how quickly uh, you grow that channel. So you have to be willing to do that up front, and I cover how to do that in the course.
Yeah, and I think it's important. We've got a couple of people who are asking essentially what you've just answered. How did you get to 4,000 hours and 1,000 subs? So you did it by doing the work, and that means being consistent as well, I think.
Yeah, and I want to tell people, don't pay any attention to the 4,000 hours. Only pay attention to the subscribers, because
Yeah,
once you have 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours it's nothing. It's a pittance. Because 4,000 hours of watch time is only 12,000 views of a 20-minute video. That's nothing. So
yeah.
once you have 1,000 subscribers, the harder part is getting the 1,000 subscribers. The watch time it's just so simple. It's ridiculous.
Now I'm just looking at the stats here from Josh, and I think he's got some figures about how much time people watch. But I know that it's something like 90% of American internet users watch videos on YouTube, and over half of the people who are age 75 and over watch videos on YouTube, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
As of right now, my channel is about to hit 15 million minutes of watch time. And so, I mean, if you look at that, and it's only been around completely for 8 months, earning in the partner program about 6 months, that's an enormous number of hours.
15 million, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And also across your user base, that means a lot of people are watching multiple hours.
Yes.
So if you have 1,000 people and each of them's watching 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 hours or more, then you'll get to your 4,000 hours pretty easily. And
Yeah.
anybody who likes your content is going to consume more of it. I mean, we all do that, don't we? If you like an author, you buy his latest book. If you like a particular actor, you go to see his latest film. It's pretty standard behavior for most of us. We like something, we want more of it. In my case, chocolate, but they slightly different thing. So really, what you're saying, and if we boil this down for the viewers, the audience, it's quick if you do the right things, and it's quicker than you might think based on this, what seems like a big number. 1,000 subscribers seems a lot of people because you start with zero. But there are ways to increase the speed of that, and I know you've covered that in the actual training, but one of the simple ways is just to do the spade work. And you talk about consistency in the training quite a lot, and there are ways to ensure that your consistency of what you do feeds into the results you're looking for. So it's not just a case of working hard; it's working smarter, not harder.
That's
And
true. And
yeah,
YouTube, the platform itself also makes it easier, because when people like what they're watching, YouTube makes it very easy to share. And people share my stuff all the time, like on Facebook and Twitter and other
yeah,
platforms. So YouTube makes it very simple. Even to just embed the video on your own site, they make that very simple. And so that gives you that built-in viral aspect that once you get the ball rolling, other people will keep pushing the ball for you. And now I'm at the point where I do not have to do, and this point started months ago, where my channel was growing on its own. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to keep making good content, and my numbers kept increasing and increasing and increasing. And then I hit a real home run with one of the videos I had that was translated into Spanish, and that skyrocketed everything again. And then I had more hits after that. So it's really just a matter of getting it off the ground. Once you get that first little start that you have to do on your own, and YouTube's got enough data to look at your videos and your channel and see who it wants to recommend your stuff to, that ball rolls on its own if your content is good. And that's one way in which YouTube, in my opinion, is vastly better and easier than like search engine optimization. See, with SEO, you're competing against all the other people in their technical knowledge of how these things work. With YouTube, all you're competing against is keeping somebody's interest watching your video. And that's a lot easier to do than SEO. And I cover a lot of the ways to do that and a lot of the pitfalls I see people make when they create videos in the course.
Yeah, that's just giving me goosebumps because there's something you said there which is really, well, two things, but really interesting. Let me draw them out for the audience. Number one, content is king. How many times have we heard that? Content is king. And this channel, this YouTube channel, well, the whole of YouTube is all about content. The second thing is the SEO is done by the biggest SEO expert company in the world who set the rules for themselves. Google decides who appears where in the search engines. Well, on their own property, YouTube, they're going to make sure that they maximize how many people see something that may be of interest to them. But they cannot do it without your content. Of course, better content tends to win, so content is king. But you don't have to worry, as John just said, that you don't have to be an SEO expert. You don't have to be a technical guru. You have to have some interesting content. And honestly, I know some people think they may not have good content. You can develop good content. We talk about that in the course. But the content itself is what drives the viewership. But the platform, YouTube's platform, takes away all the technical obstacles that you might have getting that content in front of your potential audience across the entire world. Just think about that for a moment. You have a potential audience of 8 billion people. Whatever your niche may be, you're going to find a market segment. And if you can interest them, and if you think about the things that people are interested in, you'll all have individual interests, whether it's sport or photography or eating or cooking or whatever it may be. Almost anything. I mean, I came across one thing some years ago, which I'd never heard of and don't want to hear about again, quite honestly. It's worm farming. And really, I mean, that's a thing. Wow. It's really weird. But there are many people who are interested in it. And if you happen to have an interest in that yourself, develop some content that's of interest to other people in the same niche, put it in front of them. This platform allows you to do that. Couple of clicks to upload the video. I mean, there are tricks and so on you can do with things like thumbnails and descriptions, which John will go into in the course. But essentially, this is the biggest example you could ever see of the maxim that content is king, because the entire YouTube system is driven by content from other people. Google doesn't make any of it. And I mean, that tells you a great deal.
I'm glad that you brought that up, that how easy it is to upload videos, because yeah, there are some things you can do, and I talk about all the things that I recommend that people do when it comes to the editing software, which is very simple, easy to do things. It's not complicated at all. If you can post to a blog, you can easily edit a video in the way that I show you how to do it in the course. But there are people that I follow that they don't do that. They just plant themselves in front of their laptop and the webcam, and they talk about the thing that they, the topic of the video. They don't do any editing at all. And yet these guys have tens of thousands of subscribers, and every time they put out a video, it gets 10 or 15,000 views. So, I mean, you add that up over time and it becomes really big. and
Yeah.
they didn't do anything. So I look at these videos from a technical standpoint and I say, well, if they had done these things, it could be better. But even though they're not doing those things, because the content is engaging, because people like what they have to say, it works anyway. And that's something you cannot get with Google and a website. You can have the best content in the world, but if you don't take the steps to build the links, to get things to happen, to get Google to notice you, it's not going to happen. It's not just about the value of your content in Google. You have all these technical things you have to do. And
Yeah.
YouTube, once it's off the ground just that little bit, then the value of your content, the quality of your content is what is going to drive the growth of your channel.
That's really what it comes down to. If you think about the videos that you consume personally, that each one of us consume personally, unless it's just purely entertainment, in some cases purely entertainment, how the video is done can be a big part of it. But aside from that, you don't care about all that. You just want the content, how to tie a tie, how to, whatever the content is. You don't care about all that. So that might help just with the visual aspect, maybe helping to gain the trust, maybe adds to your credibility a bit, but it really only goes so far. They really just want the content.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you know what? When you want content, you want it delivered in a way that's accessible to you. For some people, that might be listening to the YouTube video in the background. Some it might be studying instructions on screen. Others, it could just be that you feel like you're talking to a person or listening to a person and having a conversation with them, because it's what we call a talking head video. So, there are multiple different ways you can do this. Whatever you are like as a person, whether you're shy and retiring or you're very outgoing, doesn't really matter, because there is room for every type of person on YouTube. You can be front of camera, that's fine. You can never show yourself, and that's fine. And there are channels which have every kind of combination between presenters and no presenters, and screen sharing and things like that.
Yeah,
So it
I've
doesn't
done
matter.
it all, and I
Yeah.
do it all. I'm on camera most of the time now, just because it's faster and easier to be on camera than to do voiceover and have to find images and such to put on screen. But I have lots of videos that are just images on the screen and me talking about the information in the images that do really well also. And I also have videos where I have what's called a gimbal, and I talk about this in the course, where I just put my cell phone into this little stick that stabilizes the phone so it doesn't have, a choppy video. And I just walk around the neighborhood because I live in a pretty neighborhood, and I have the mic attached and I just talk about whatever I want to talk about. And people love that because there's a park not far from where I live, and I walk through the park and people listen to this message while they're looking at these beautiful trees and scenery, and that's great. And I'm never on camera for those. So if you don't want to be on camera, you don't have to be on camera. There's lots of options. It is easier to sit in front of a webcam and just talk, but you don't have to do that. And there's no requirement to do that. I've been on camera, I've been off camera, I've been just me talking, I've had round tables with other people talking. All of those work very well. It just depends on what your personal style and preference is.
Yeah, and I think people can develop as well. So if you start out shy, which, let's be honest, most people may be a bit shy to be on camera presenting, that's fine. When you've done a few or even a few dozen videos, you may not feel as shy. You may think, well, I'll try. So you can develop as you go. And if you look at any successful YouTube channel and look at the early videos, they bear no relation to the sort of latest ones with all the whiz bang and whistles and all the fancy schmancy kind of thing. People, even the biggest YouTube channels, get better with experience. That's not surprising. So if you start out and your first video is not so good, that's fine. If you hate it, delete it, do it again. If you like it or you're willing to see what happens, leave it there and see what happens. But when you've done a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth, you're going to get better. So the third question I wanted to ask you, John, is an interesting one. And I'm going to throw in a couple of curveballs with it because I can see some questions on the chat box here. But the question is, ignoring YouTube ads, which Google control completely, is it possible, and if it is possible, how realistic is it to get financial support and revenue streams outside of that environment of YouTube ads?
Yes, it is very possible. In fact, I wish I could remember the name of it. I saw this great video a few weeks ago from this channel that literally gets millions of views every time they put out a video, but they don't show any ads at all on their videos. And at first I was like, what? And why aren't they doing that? Because it's not content that wouldn't be approved by YouTube. It was a choice they made. They only get support from Patreon, which is a third-party funding platform, where you can go and pledge a certain amount of monetary support on a monthly or per video basis. And every month, I have a Patreon account and I have it set up for monthly. Every month that person is charged and it funds your account. So people can volunteer to help you because they like your content. And it's always going to be a minority because most people go to YouTube to watch free content, not to pay for it. But you're going to get those diehard fans. And when you bring up to them, hey, when you support me on Patreon, it makes it possible for me to put time into making these videos. If you like these videos, please support me. 1 second, I have to cough.
Sure, of course.
Then there's a certain segment that will do that. And I'm putting a lot more emphasis on Patreon now because every time I mention Patreon in my videos, which I've been doing the last few videos, I get new patrons. And a patron is just someone who signs up to support you. So that's slowly becoming a larger part of my earnings on the channel. And that's particularly important for me because, like I said, my market is limited in size. So even if I can get to a large enough subscriber base or a large enough views base, it's never going to get to the point where this would be full time. And I would need to have a core of supporters through Patreon to be able to do that. And I really think that in time that is going to happen. And I see
Yeah.
channels all the time where that does happen. But even if you have ads, it's a nice supplement and in some cases can overtake what you're earning from the ads.
Okay, I want to show something just before I ask you a follow-up question to that, because that's great. I mean, it sounds odd that people will give you money when they don't need to, but people do. You know, there are lots of people who do that, and lots of channels that have Patreon accounts. It's a big thing now. I think there's another one which is similar. I can't remember the name, but there's a couple of um, payment systems where people can express their appreciation of what you do and either make one-off payments or give you a monthly payment. I was looking at this the other day, and this particular guy, who's a hobbyist, actually got a ton of videos showing how to make Indian food, which is great if you happen to like those that food. Now his views are not as big as yours. You can see 1,700, 6,000, 20K. So he's not getting millions of views. But the interesting thing about this, and I want you to comment of your experience on your channel, John, in a moment, is that what he's doing is giving content that people like, and then within the description, he's actually pointing them back to a page on Amazon where he's selling these same recipes that he's given away free, and people are buying them. So even though the content is here on YouTube for free, he's sending people back to a purchase platform, which happens to be Amazon, and Amazon are really good at making people buy. So he's using YouTube in this particular case as a free advertising platform, which is fantastic. And I believe, if I remember, oh yeah, he's got 24 and a bit thousand subscribers. So he's almost double what you're on at the moment. He's been around longer, but when you think about that, he puts out a new video and people are going to look at that, and some of them go look at his page. And he's selling Kindle versions. He's selling paperback versions. He's advertising on Google for an Amazon sales account. Fantastic. In your case, John, I know you've had an experience with people contacting you. Can you tell us? I think you know what I mean. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I've had a number of people tell me that I should write a book, which I don't have time to do that. But there are other people who are in the same, uh, I don't want to call it a market because activism, I guess it's still a market. They're appealing to the same group that have written books. And there's one recently that just got a ton of publicity and press. And I was really happy to see that because, I don't care who gets the message out as long as the message gets out. And So books can do really well. And there's one guy that I follow who's kind of one of the bigger players in the market. And he's written a few books. And I know because I support him, I'm one of his patrons, that he sells hundreds of books a month, which supplements his income through the channel.
Okay, let me just kind of summarize that, John, because you went over that way too fast for everybody. Let's see if we can get this down to a nice elevator pitch sentence as the reply to the answer. You've actually had some of your viewers almost beg you to create a product that you would sell to them because they would like to buy it from you.
Yes, I've had a number of people ask me to write a book and say that they would buy it if I wrote it.
Did you hear that, audience? People are asking to buy from John content that he's already kind of putting on his channel. They're asking him to sell them things. I mean, when you get an audience who likes what you do, they're going to want more of it. This is not rocket science. It's just the way human beings behave. When people like something, they want more of it. So once you've got something where your content, you've got to be a little bit passionate about it to sustain it, I think. But if you're giving good content, it doesn't really matter what the niche is. People are going to do the same kind of thing. And, if they're coming to you and asking you to produce something for sale, that's really a pretty good indication that that marketplace, they want that audience. They want what you're delivering and they're willing to pay for it. The Patreon thing is nice as well. And you'll get a few people doing that. But when you have people actively asking you to produce objects for sale, I mean, I find that personally absolutely astonishing. People
I
are queuing. It's like,
I appreciate that. I don't know if I'll ever write a book and it's like YouTube gives you the opportunity to sell merchandise
yeah,
with your channel logo and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people do that. I don't do any of those things. Uh, and I could, but like I said, mine is not a commercial endeavor, so I'm not interested in those things. I love the Patreon platform, which is why I'm putting so much more effort into that now, because I feel like you get the core people who really appreciate what you're doing, and to the point where the market size isn't nearly as important as long as you have that core of support. Like I said, my market is relatively small. It's actually very small in comparison to most, but
yeah,
there is an enormous opportunity when it comes to getting patrons to support what I do. So even if you're not approved for the ad partner program of YouTube, or even if the content you produce is not acceptable by the YouTube ad guidelines, so they don't accept you into the partner program, Patreon is a wonderful way to reach that core supporters and build up a network. And if YouTube ever changes their policies or guidelines, you're not left in the lurch, because they did that. I think it was a year and a half ago. It was before I actually started, so I only heard about it. I wasn't, in the middle of it when it happened. But they demonetized a bunch of smaller channels and
yeah.
upped the guideline requirements because apparently they were having trouble with low quality videos showing ads, and it was causing grumblings from the advertisers. So they upped their quality requirement in terms of numbers. So YouTube could do that. They could do that again 5 years from now. They could do that next year. But if you have a core support through Patreon or some other third-party funding platform, that doesn't matter. You're still good. So take advantage of YouTube. And what if YouTube changes to the point where you don't want to be on YouTube anymore? Well, you still bring your supporters with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And that's why I'm so much more focused on it now, because as of right now, Patreon is about 15% of the income from my channel. But the more I've been thinking about it lately, I'm like, but that's where I need to be focusing my time and effort. I need to get more patrons in. And so I'm putting a lot more work into that now.
But of course, you have to have good content to
Yeah,
encourage
you
those
do.
people to do
You
that.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
that's true regardless. You're
yeah,
not going to grow a channel if your content's not good. And you said you have to have a little bit of passion. I would say that passion is probably the number one requirement.
yes,
If you love what you're creating or the subject you're talking about, or you find it really fascinating or just very important, like in my case, I think the message is very important. It's not that I love what I have to say, it's that it's important for me to say it. Then that energy and that passion, that belief, that interest that you have, it comes through in your voice and if you're on screen in your face. And that's what keeps people watching. You don't need all the fancy editing and producing and lighting and acting and all that that movies and TV shows have, because you already you're not acting. You do feel that way. You
But
do
John,
believe these things.
let me just chime in here. So generally speaking, I think that's right. I think the passion is going to be very, very important, but not in every case. If you're doing recipes, if you're sharing recipes, that might be something that people just don't really care about your passion. They care about whether the recipe results in food that tastes good, for example. And I'm sure there are a lot of other examples. So I think it really depends on the niche. I think it really depends on what you're going after, the audience you're going after, and what exactly what content you are providing. Because what it all comes down to is you're providing content. So what is the content? And, you know, depending on that will determine what level of passion will be required in order to retain.
that's a good point, Josh. But let me sort of argue the opposite point for a moment. It's making the same point really, but kind of defining the word passion. So you're talking about recipes. One of the things that's very common with the successful recipe channels, and as a guy who loves food, I watch a lot of them, is that when they're cooking this, they will use emotive terminology about the particular flavorings or whatever, and then their real passion comes at the end where they will actually taste the food and you will see the look of delight on their face. And if somebody doesn't actually taste their food, and I know this because I helped somebody years ago to create a channel on YouTube about cooking, and she didn't taste her food, and she didn't get many views and referrals and so on. And I said, well, you've got to show people. You've got to, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Start eating it and make them
Does
look at the
does
food.
does
I
anyone
can't.
say, "Oh, that's gross"?
Well, I can't, but I can't taste the food. I can't smell the food while it's on the thing. But I can
Right.
see your reaction, or feed your kid or whatever, and their face lights up. So the question of passion, I think, is the term itself can be misinterpreted, but I think it's an enthusiasm for the information that you're
Enthusiasm.
sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
That's a
always kind
really
of been
good
it.
word. If you
Yeah.
don't have any enthusiasm, neither is anyone who's watching what you have to say.
yeah,
Now there are always exceptions to that, because like
sure.
we've seen videos that have robotic voices that have gotten millions of views just because the content was either extremely interesting or just very, very good. So even if the presentation was very
Yeah.
poor, the content was so good that didn't matter. But
Like
in
I've
most cases, your enthusiasm is what's going to grow the channel.
I've seen channels where the entire content, all the content, is old public domain content in
Yeah.
a particular passionate niche that people in that niche are passionate about. So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, obviously, I'm not trying to downgrade the importance of that. Go with something you have passion with, and you're going to have a much greater chance. All I'm saying is there are, like John said, there are the exceptions. Just all depends on what your market is and what your content is.
Josh
Another
has a,
reason, I don't disagree with what Josh is saying. Another reason why it's really good, not as so much for your viewer, but for you, is at first you're going to have to do all the legwork. Like I
yeah,
said, it took me about 6 weeks before I got approved, and it just in the last month, I mean, things really took off. Uh, so I had to be willing to go through that time to get to the point where the snowball effect really started to happen really quickly. And that took a couple of months after I was approved for me to really see it. I mean, obviously, your first dollar is always a big deal once you earn that, because that lets you know that I can do this. This is possible. But if you don't have an interest, like a strong interest in what you're doing, is going to drive you to do it anyway, but just because you love it. And if you don't have that interest, now if you're very what's the word, very, if you're a planner and you know, well, this is probably going to take me 6 months to get it off the ground to where I need it to be, and you can stick it out through that 6 months, well, that's great. But a lot of people, and I would even say most people, unless they're really interested in it, it's going to be hard to find the energy to keep going until they get to that point. But if you're already very passionate, interested, fired up about the topic, that's not a problem because you love doing it so much. Any response is, it just further, sparks your fire.
Yeah, and that's I think that ability to sustain the work is the critical point that distinguishes those who succeed and those who fall by the
Yes, I agree
wayside.
with that. That's a big,
Yeah.
big thing there.
I
So
mean, how
many
many times do we
projects are
see it?
started.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we,
that's
we,
it.
we see it so often. And of course, people give us feedback. So if people have come to our training or they bought products from us, we hear a lot from people. Some of them are saying that was great. I'm now earning X thousands a month and so on. Others say, well, it didn't work for me. And we tend to follow up. We say, well, what did you do? Well, I published a blog post and nothing happened. Okay, what did you do
And I
next?
quit.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
literally what people say.
yeah.
And it's,
When I
yeah.
started mine. I'm sorry, Amy. When I was
No,
in the army, I was in the army. I guess it was 15 years ago. I don't know. And I started getting interested in internet marketing. And I had all kinds of guys tell. I mean, they literally made fun of me and said, "You're stupid. What are you doing? You're getting out of the army. You need to prepare. You need to get a real job." But I kept on going. I kept on going. I kept on going. And 6 months after I decided, I still wasn't making much money, but I had so much desire to do it that I would not quit. And that's what got me to where I am today, 15 years later, a lot of money later. So what you just said is just really, really important. People quit if they don't see immediate success. You can't do it. If you're talking about YouTube or you're talking about anything in life, anything in business particularly, you are not going to make it if you quit if you fail, if you're not making a lot of money after a couple months. It's just you're not gonna
My
succeed.
my experience tends to be the same as Josh. He said it took 6 months to start seeing results that got him excited, but he was
yeah,
already so interested, he kept going. When I first started as well, it took about 6 months for me to get to the point where I started seeing revenue. And I'm not talking about the channel, I'm talking about way back when I started working for myself online. It took about 6 months. And then with the YouTube channel, it's taken about 6 months. So it seems to be like 6 months is sort of the standard. You have to be willing to just go all in for that period of time, or you're not going to see results. You're just not. If you want to put out two little videos and say, well, nobody watched it, I guess I can't do this. No, that's not going to fly. You need to be willing to put some time into it. But isn't that true of anything? I mean, when you
Yeah.
first get a job, you're not good at that job immediately, unless it's something you've been doing forever and you just changed employers. No, you're not. It takes time for you to learn the ropes and get really, uh, what's the word, to just get
competent.
efficient and competent and productive and
Yeah.
to understand the ins and outs. And that's when things start to take off.
And that ties into the passion again. I mean, the passion is what pulls you through. If there's no passion at all, you don't want to do it, and you're not making money, well, then, it's natural just to quit. But if you have passion, I just really want to get this message out. I just really love this. I just really like talking about, whatever it is that's going to help you to keep going forward.
I want to respond to a comment that Stephen Last just made. He's talking about climate change. He said, climate
Yeah,
change fascinates me and makes me emotional, but not many people search for climate change videos I found. Well, see, here's the thing about YouTube. Search, the search feature is the smallest way you're going to get people to see your videos. The recommendation feature is what YouTube uses to get your videos out. And so people don't have to search for the video. They just have to be watching something that is either related, even sometimes just marginally related, and other videos appear in the recommendations, like up next, watch these, right? So if you're making videos about climate change and you do the footwork to get that initial subscriber base, those initial viewers, then YouTube will start recommending your videos out. And if it finds that they're good, and I cover what that means, how YouTube determines whether or not your video is good, I cover all that in the course, uh, then it'll keep recommending, and pushing it out further and further. So don't think that there has to be a huge search count. And don't think that you have to be in a market where there's tons of products for what you talk about. Like there's no products for climate change. I mean, maybe there's a book or something, but there's not much in the way of products for climate change. But that doesn't matter because my channel's content has very little in the way of related ads. But that doesn't matter to Google. Google's got big data. It knows everything people are searching for and every video they've ever watched. And so it will show ads that are related to their interests, even if it's not related to the video they're watching right now. So don't think that your market has to be very commercial in nature. It doesn't. I know because mine has nothing to do with anything commercial at all.
Oh, John,
Ironically,
you
what
were you said some things there that are really powerful, but you went over them real quick. So I just want to backtrack so the audience gets some of the goodness out of what you just said there. Google knows everything about everyone virtually. That means when you're looking on a climate change video, even if there's only 2 or 3 on YouTube, they also know that you may be interested in the keto diet or whatever else it may be, because they aggregate all your data and they know what you're looking for and how long you spend online and all that kind of good stuff. So they're going to feed you whatever they have that you may be interested in. It's almost like walking into a coffee shop and you don't particularly want coffee, but it's the only shop that's open, and the owner happens to recognize you, and he knows that you're thinking about buying a sailing boat, and he just happens to know somebody who's got one on a great deal, and he starts telling you about it. You would listen. You'd be interested because you are interested in that. The fact that the environment around you wasn't the initial point of contact for a sailing boat doesn't matter. If somebody knows something about you, they will know what you're interested in. And Google knows a lot about you. So this thing that John just mentioned there is one of the reasons that people, which YouTube have denied, by the way, one of the reasons that people go down a rabbit hole where they spend hours clicking on related links. Come on, hands up. Who's done it? I've done it. We know we have. You see a video, and then on the side, there's these related videos. You look up 3 hours later, and where did the time go? Because you've been clicking on videos that Google has put in front of you because you will be interested in them. Google is going to do the hard work for you with that. You don't have to. I mean, just think how cool is that Google, who knows all this about so many people, is going to use it, and you'll get the benefit. I mean, that's pretty good. Before you continue, I'm just going to show some stats here, which Josh pulled up for me earlier. Every minute, 400 hours of videos are uploaded. That's a lot of videos. But sorry, go on. Who's that? Is that Josh?
I like the one over half of American internet users who are aged 75 and over watch videos on YouTube. Over half. That's
I mean, I don't know what they're watching, but it's like maybe hobbies or crafts or whatever, or it could even be old-fashioned music, couldn't it? But 1 billion hours of video, 1 billion hours of video are watched every single day. I mean, I can't even get my head around that number. 1 billion hours a day. That's a lot of videos being watched. It could just as easily be yours. Despacito, that's that song, 6 billion views in 2 years. 1.9 billion monthly active logged in users. So the active logged in thing is important. That means these are people who are consuming content. Let's call it 2 billion.
I think those numbers are older.
Yeah.
Because last I saw, it's over 2 billion active users, and it's definitely more than 1 billion hours every day.
And it reaches more people between, well, it says adults, to me they're kids, but anyway, 18 to 49 are watching more YouTube than they do cable networks. This one, look at this. YouTube ads are 84% more likely to hold attention than TV ads. I mean, wow. Product review videos. We haven't even touched on them because you can do those as well. 50,000 years worth of videos have been watched on YouTube in the last 2 years. 50,000 years worth of video. I mean, is anybody ever doing any work? They're all on YouTube, aren't they? It's just incredible. So you've got these massive audiences, and you only need a few of them. I mean, John's talking about the sort of marketplace he's in, or the audience being about 20 million out of 2 billion logging in every month. That's not really much of a percentage, is it? So you don't need a big percentage in order to do well.
Yeah, and Eamon, Stephen, I think it's Stephen last. He also said, same guy as the last question, but
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to comment on. He said, I think you need at least 40 good videos on a single niche before the channel starts to grow. Well, that's really not true. I actually have a personal channel myself. I don't put nearly as much time and effort into it as John does his, but a couple of years ago, I uploaded a particular video on a heated topic, and it kind of went viral. Not even really viral. I mean, it wasn't really viral. It was more of just, it got popular through YouTube, and it still gets a lot of views every single day, a lot of comments. And that one video, mainly that one video, grew my channel up to 2,000. I'm looking at it right now, 2,315 subscribers. Most of those subscribers came from that one video. So it really doesn't take, it's a little bit sidetracking from what Eamon was just talking about, but I wanted to hit on that. It really doesn't.
Josh, having said that, I do think it's a very, very important point to make. Just because you don't have a lot of subscribers does not mean that your video cannot go crazy viral. That does not mean that. I have seen videos, and my best performing video on my channel is closing in on 300,000 views right now. And I published it months ago when I only had a couple of thousand subscribers. And what happens is that if you do the right things, if the video keeps people's attention and you do the right things to make sure the click-through rate is high, and I cover all that in the course, as long as people keep clicking and watching, YouTube's going to keep recommending it. So let's say you only have 200 subscribers, or let's say you just reached the 1,000 that you need to apply for the partner program to show ads. And your subscriber base, keep in mind, your subscribers aren't going to watch all your videos. I think right now I'm at about 25% of my subscribers actually watch the videos, everything I put out. So let's say you get 500 views on that video, but the people who watch it all the way through. Well, see, now YouTube's like, wow, people like this video. Let's recommend it out to a few people. So they recommend it out to a few people. And because you did the right things to get the click-through rate high, again, which I cover in the course, they click through. They watch the video. They like the video. People are watching a lot of the video. YouTube says, wow, people are really liking this video. How does YouTube know this? Because they're watching the video, and YouTube knows exactly how much of the video they're watching and what the typical watch time is and all that. So it keeps spreading it out, spreading it out, spreading it out, spreading it out. And my video, that's the best performing video on my site, it just keeps growing every day. I don't have to do anything. It just keeps going because people keep watching it.
We've got a comment from Stephen, and John, I want you to give him some tough love here because it's an interesting comment he made, and I've asked if it's okay. So he said that he's got a channel which has got 250 videos and 350,000 views, but he hasn't made any money from it. He's got to be doing something wrong, hasn't he? Unless I'm misunderstanding his statement, because he's saying he's not making money directly. I wonder if he's selling something else. Stephen, are you selling something on the channel or redirecting to your site, or is it just information?
Is he in the partner program? Does he use a third-party funding platform? I mean,
because that's a lot of views. He should be getting something, shouldn't he? I mean, we'll have a look at it later, perhaps after the webinar, Steve. But that's a lot of views. A lot of views. 350,000 views is well over that 4,000 minimum. That you needed. Oh, interesting. So he does earn from his website. Okay, so he's earning some money from it, but not directly from the partner program. Okay, well, that may be something, if you want to send some questions in separately later, Stephen, we might have a look at that with you, because that would be interesting. So I've asked you the 3 questions, John. I think it would be appropriate now to just scroll back through the question box and see if there's anything we've missed.
Sure.
But before we do, I just wanted to show you a couple of things. This one, which Josh pulled up for me earlier. Look, nobody's going to make these figures here today, let's be honest, but these are the top 10 paid viewers, right? 35 million, these 2 guys in a year. Wow. The top 10 earners make 180 million a year between them. And one of them, when I can find him, is a little kid who makes about, was it 20
the very
million?
First one.
Is it the first one?
22 million is the first one. No, I mean down.
Oh, they're doing it reverse order, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look. So this is a little guy called Ryan, and well, I guess really the truth is his parents have made the channel. He's just kind of the star. He's 7, and they obviously buy him a lot of toys. Right? So he's got 18 million subscribers. Okay, and he's got affiliate links, and that's how much he's making a year. $22 million. Now, some of that is affiliate sales.
I paid into some of that because my 6-year-old is a subscriber. And so,
really? Oh, there you go. You see, so people, kids watch this and say, Dad, Mom, can I have this Jurassic World? It looks cool. And I guess the more excited Ryan is, so that's where the passion and enthusiasm comes in, the more that the people watching will be excited as well, particularly children, because you do get excited if somebody else is excited. So that's a lot of money. Now, even if you made 10% of that, it's 2.2 million. If you made 1% of that, it's what, 220,000. I mean, these are ridiculous numbers. Now, I don't think any of us today are going to be replicating what Ryan's done, although we could, because, you know, toys reviews can be done by anybody. But the fact is, you know, it's an interesting channel, because even if the kids watch it and they get a couple of these toys, they're not going to get all of them. So there's a kind of vicarious pleasure of watching somebody else open a box and smile and start ripping the paper off and then pull out the toys and, you know, do whatever he's doing with the toys. I guess these particular ones make noise or something like that, and so on. So there's a very tremendous excitement when you watch these things, which is why unboxing videos are quite popular. John and Josh, now look, the next question is an awkward one, because the reality is we're not going to give away the contents of the entire course. I mean, if you want the access to the course, you're going to have to pay for it because there's tremendous value in it. But the question is from Leslie, which is, okay, let me paraphrase. So far, that's great. You've told me that you can make money and so on, but I want some more detail on what you need to do to get started and get that initial starting point, subscribers and viewers. How much of that can you actually answer specifically for us, John, without giving away the farm?
Well, I've really already said it. It's a matter of you being active on social media, being active with other people who are interested in the topic that you cover on your channel, you know, working to network, leaving comments, but don't spam. Don't spam. I talk about that in the course too. You don't want to spam. And just using that grassroots, talking to people online through social media, following the right hashtags and Twitter, and engaging with the people that are talking about your market. And when it's appropriate, you can offer a link to a video you made that answers a question that somebody asks, or a comment that somebody makes. There's Facebook groups about whatever market you're talking about. You can join those. I've done that too. There's forums. There's a big Reddit space for the activism work that I do, and I'm active there. It's that grassroots, getting to know people, networking with people, and saying, hey, I have this video. If you're interested, let me know what you think, kind of a thing that will grow your channel. Just the few people, maybe 100 or 200 subscribers, maybe a few hundred views on each video that you need for YouTube to have the data it needs to start to recommend your videos.
And I'm not even so sure I mean, that is definitely something that you want to do. It's definitely beneficial. I think it's more of a speeding the process up than anything. I mean, I haven't had the success John has with YouTube, but I mean, just with my channel, I've done almost nothing to that regard, and I've ended up with 2,300 subscribers with very little effort. You know, just throwing a few videos up there every now and then. We have other channels that aren't as popular as John's, but could be if we put the effort into it. And so don't think that this legwork is, you know, this is what's going to make or break you. Really, more than anything, this is just what's going to kind of get you a start and kind of speed up the process.
Yeah, it's really about accelerating the process. If you want to get to the 1,000 subscriber mark as quickly as possible, so you can apply for the partner program. And if you want to do that very quickly, then you're going to want to do the legwork.
Yeah, and Michelle has just said, well, the course it's a step-by-step video tutorial from settings to graphics. You can't go wrong with it. And with the Prosperity membership, all the tools that come with it. Thank you, Michelle. That's very kind of you to say. And yeah, I mean, there's tremendous value in this. And the real point of the video course is that the things that would take you time to learn on your own have been learned for you. It's all pre-digested, right? You don't have to digest it yourself and spend 6 months learning how to do it. You can start as if you're at the 3-month mark. Now, it's still going to take time for videos to get some traction and so on, but you'll be getting a running start at this. And listen, that's what everybody wants, isn't it? To shortcut the process. And so that's what we're going to be offering. I think we did promise people that we'd tell them about the offer. Can we do that now, actually?
Yeah, we need to point out the one-time payment option that we now have.
So we've got a couple of offers here for you, and you can join the Prosperity membership, which is $47 a month at the moment until midnight on Friday. Normally $67 a month. Within that, you get coaching, you get a community, you get a ton of tools and software that will help you do things. Now, the community aspect of it is more important than you might think, because if you're like most people, you've got nobody else in your life who will get what you're doing. They won't understand it. Your family won't. When I made my first $7, which by the way took me 6 months to do because I was doing things wrong, my in-laws laughed at me. Well, it was $7, which in the UK was about £5. It wasn't a great deal, and they literally laughed in my face because I was excited. But it didn't stay there. It grew. It got some brothers and sisters. The money multiplied, and when it started to become significant amounts, they sort of pricked up their ears and said, "Well, what are you doing?" When I explained it to them, their eyes glazed over. So if you're like most of us, you don't really have a close family member or close friend who understands what you're doing. Anybody you can talk to. So the community aspect of the Prosperity membership is pretty powerful on its own.
Personal coaching by us, who have made we have made considerable revenues over the past 15 years, and I think that's more than anything. When it comes to the community, you have direct one-on-one access to us, so we're there to answer your questions, not only with YouTube, but with anything at all with internet marketing.
And somebody who's done it before you knows which bits to avoid. You can save a ton of time, which is fine. If you want to learn things yourself, that works as well. But if you're wanting to get round that obstacle of the difficulty of learning, that's the way to do it. Now, we know that some of you prefer one-time purchase options for things like video courses and so on. So that's a one-time payment of $47, and you get instant access. You get a welcome email with your login details, so you can view all the videos. They are protected. You've got to log in, of course. And so if you do that, you maybe sometimes check in your spam email folder just in case the welcome email goes in there by mistake. And that's just for the training on the YouTube, which John has put together. So there's a couple of options here. You can join the Prosperity membership, which includes the training, but gives you tools, software, assets, bonuses, and access to us as well on an ongoing basis for $47 a month. Or you can just do the one-time payment option for the training videos on YouTube only. And what you get, if I can show you, when you log in, after you've logged in onto the blog, you'll get an email with your login details. You'll see this link here. And when you click on this, you'll actually see the videos. And then you just work your way down. This is in sequence. Hit the play button. Play it as many times as you want, learn and implement. And by the way, that last bit, the implement, is the bit that makes you money. Don't just look at videos. Please do what they tell you to do. That's how you will be successful. If you just watch them, it will do nothing for you. I've got a question from Michael. If you're already a member of Prosperative, it's within the Prosperative area for you already. There's a new thread, a new board that's called YouTube Training. So if you're already a member there, Michael, you can log in and access those automatically at no extra cost. It's built within the membership of Prosperity. April's saying this is only $47 for the YouTube course. That's a no-brainer. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And I think that's right. John's spent a lot of time putting this together. One thing I think we should mention as well is that although John is kind of the figurehead of this particular course, we've all had input into it because we've all done things on YouTube, and we've wanted to make sure that you get the speed out of this. We don't want you to take 6 months to learn how to put a simple video on YouTube and make the description right and the tags right and get somebody watching it. We want you to be doing this in a week or 2 or 3 weeks. The money will come later perhaps, but we want you to be doing this pretty quickly. And one of the reasons, we want you to come back and tell us so that we can tell other people. Joe says this is what happened. Steve said this happened when he followed our advice. We like it. We like applause, let's be honest. We like being told that something is good, but we also like to see other people's success. It's tremendous. And of course, we would also use that in our future promotions and mention how other people are using this information to change their life. Whether you want to replace your income, which John was talking about, or you just want to save up, to pay off your mortgage early, whatever your particular level is, that would determine how much time and effort you have to put into it. But beyond that, using something like this tried and tested course, you can save the time that you would spend learning. So you can get to your end point, whatever that may be, faster. Now then, you've all heard work smarter, not harder. But the important word is work, isn't it? You have to do a little bit of work. So if you're going to do that work anyway, why not do it smarter rather than harder? Well, by taking advantage of the offer that you got today, you can do it smarter rather than harder. So I'll leave that on screen for a moment. I'm just seeing if there's a couple of questions.
Jan's asking where the link is to only buy the video course. So that is right there on the page.
So this yellow button here, and I'm actually gonna
if you share that link. And this is on the actual landing page. So the emails we've sent yesterday when we announced the course, and those emails, that's the same link. So it's right there on the home page. Just click that buy now button down there. And we also have, I wanted to share a little bit of feedback here from a user says, wow, wow, wow. I'm jumping. jumping for
a lot of wows.
I'm already
Stephen.
Stephen,
Stephen didn't know he was getting this. Yeah,
he said, I'm already a member of Prosperative, so I get this in my membership. Wow.
Jim, no, there's no upsell on that. It's just the course itself. Now, when you go to this page, I put that in the chat box for you, by the way, so you can click on that. This is what you will see. There's a countdown, and midnight Friday, that's the 25th of July, Eastern Time, the price is changing. It's going back up, okay? But right now, you can get in at the offer.
So both the Prosperative membership, which includes the YouTube training and the standalone YouTube training, both of those go up soon. So order now and get it at that price.
If you click on this where it says get started, it will take you to the payment options. Now this one in orange, this big one here, is the Prosperative membership. This is the full thing, the full package with all the bonuses and so on. And that's $47 a month right now. That's going to go back up in a couple of days. The yellow one here is the YouTube course on its own. It's a single time purchase. It's $47. When you click it, you'll see that the button changes to this page where it will tell you it's $47. There you go, $47. You just sign in and you will get a link and you will log in to, did I come out of it? I think I've come out of it, haven't I? Yeah, you will get a link to this access area. The welcome email could go into your spam sometimes by mistake, so do check that. But you'll get a name and a password, and when you log in, you'll get the link for that in the email as well. You'll see this here, YouTube Success. When you click on that, all those videos, there are 18 at the moment, and I think there's another couple that John is finishing off in the next couple of days with the latest information here. You can view them. You can make that full screen if you want to, but these are high definition videos. And each of them is short enough that it's not going to take you your full life to watch them, but long enough to give you all the information you need. And it goes literally from start to finish. I would recommend, please do.
Can you click on one of them? Just show them.
Okay, yeah. It's going to be choppy because it's a video coming through the webinar, but I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the. Now, I don't think you'll get the audio, do you? Not sure.
Yeah, you can hear it a little bit, kind of vaguely in the background, but you can see the quality of the videos, and John really goes into detail. And we were talking about enthusiasm and passion. He has enthusiasm and passion about this, and you'll see it come through.
And you all know there are people. We've all met people who are boring, and just their voice, you don't want to listen to them because there's no life in their voice. But then you hear somebody who's interested in what they're talking about. They're excited. You can tell. Right, and it's really, really difficult to fake that, which is why we keep saying be enthusiastic about whatever you choose, because that way it's going to come across. Now this, by the way, one of the reasons we've put it on this site here is that you can scrub it forward and backwards. So if you know that halfway through this initial video was a point you want to watch again, you can just click on it and play from that point.
Eamon, April shared something. I shared it on the chat. She said, April Joyce said, I can't believe the price. Recently, I seen such rubbish for so much more. You guys
Yeah.
truly are special. I'm so glad I'm a Prosperative member. Love it, April. We
Oh,
appreciate
I
you.
like this. Can you, April, is it now? Okay. I want to make a point here, and it's a serious point. Okay. When you put videos out there, people will ask you to produce things for them. So John was asked to produce a book. We've seen it with other people. Um, you know what? April's asking how she can get the Prosperity T-shirt. If we sold these to our members, I can promise you, if we made these available through the I can't remember the name of that T-shirt making site, but we'd sell them. And we've been asked here,
Hey, maybe
can
we
we do that?
will. Think about
Well,
it.
we might do. Yeah, absolutely. So let's have a
And
look.
that's funny you should say that because she saw the shirt and wants the shirt. YouTube, in their documentation on selling merchandise through your channel, says the number one best way to sell your merchandise is to wear it or have it in the video. Like if you sell
Yes.
mugs or something
Yeah.
like that, to
Yeah.
have it in the video because people see it and they're like, oh, I want that. So
Yeah.
it apparently works because someone already wants the shirt just because I'm wearing it in the video.
Well, there's a particular, well, a few photographers on YouTube who started just with basic free information, and then they've realized that people want more from them and so on. And most of them now sell shirts, and this is the funny thing, this is really funny. They sell shirts that advertise their channel, and people are buying them, and they love it. It's like the branding. People are keen to show the branding and on clothing that they wear. And to me, I think, well, that's just advertising the product. You're paying somebody extra to advertise their brand, but people are doing that. And T-shirts are a big thing because they foster a sense of community and belonging, so that people who are invested in your channel, whatever it may be about, whether it's weight loss or activism or even the prosperity channel, if they're invested in that channel, they want to feel part of it. And another thing that you can do is give them a shout out. Now, you will notice we do that regularly on webinars. We talk about, well, Stephen asked this question, April said that, Jan said something else, Michael was asking this question, Mark has insulted me by saying that John's a handsome man and he didn't say it about me. I'm just kidding, Mark. But you get the point. By recognizing your followers and your subscribers and your viewers and your audience, they feel like they belong more. And so I'm quite certain that in future videos, John will probably refer to comments from previous people saying, well, in the last video, Stephen mentioned that. And that was a good point, which got me to thinking about something else. So it's a really good way to foster engagement and belonging and community. And you really can't stress too much how much people are desperate for community these days, because the internet seems to have pushed us apart. People, I mean, you look at Facebook and, friends and likes and so on. People spend almost their entire lives on there and never talk to their neighbors. People want community online. So, that's how it is. By the way, if you go to this page, you can't see the videos unless you're logged in. So after you've actually purchased, you will get an email with your login and where you log in. So if you're buying just the access to the videos only, you will get an email for that. If you join the Prosperity membership, you'll get an email for the Prosperity membership, which gives you everything else. And let's have a look. Have I missed any important questions, Josh or John? I'm just seeing.
Oh,
Whether you
Going back.
have or whether you haven't, I have to take off. I have two sick children in the house.
Oh, thank you, John. I know
The doctor.
we tend to go over, don't we? But thank you very much. And everybody's appreciating what you've shared with us today. It's been great. And it shows that you can do this because you didn't even start out to make any money. And
No,
look,
and not only did I not start out to make any money, and that's the last thing I want to say, I started out, I mean, I had made like our sales videos and things like that before, but I had never ever done anything like what I do on the channel. I had never been on camera for the video. I think once I was on camera, and I did a lot of things wrong back then on camera. So it was all very new, and I had to learn everything as I went. But it didn't take long for me to start to see where all the mistakes were and how to do things right. And I asked a lot of people a lot of questions, and I put all of that information into the course so that you guys don't have to go through what I went through. Whenever you start, you'll know right from the beginning, this is how to do this. This is how to do that. This is how to improve the click-through rate. This is how to keep people watching. These are the kind of formats people like, so you don't have to learn any of that. You're already going to know it.
Yeah. And that's a really, really important point, because I don't know about any of you listening right now, but I don't want to spend my life learning things that are difficult. If I can avoid it, I would sooner achieve and do those things and get the satisfaction of achieving. Learning's good, but if I can find a way to learn something quickly, for me, that means I can learn even more because I've got time left to spend on other things. Instead of learning one thing in 2 weeks, I can learn 6 things. And I think that's a lot better. So by using a formula that somebody else has already uncovered, you get that benefit of the time saving. So thanks to John. Josh, have I missed anything else have you seen any other questions that we need to cover?
No, several compliments. I've pasted a couple of them in the chat box, and then we had a few people talk about the tools in the Prosperative membership. So if you go for the Prosperative membership rather than the standalone training, you do get. We really sold it short. There are tons of tools, and if you just go to prosperative.com/join, you can see the sales page.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to see the actual information, I'll put this in the chat box as well, so you can see just everything you get. I mean, there's
some amazing, powerful tools that you would be paying tons more if you paid for them individually. Keyword Titan, Article Builder, Instant Video Wizard. I believe we give them Instant Video Wizard, don't we?
Yeah. By the way, don't on this page, don't order from here at the moment because you'd pay extra. So pay on the other page is where the offer is. So this is just to show you what you get with it, and why we think you should listen to us.
But on top of that, just with the actual YouTube training, I just want to say, there's YouTube training out there. A lot of it's outdated. A lot of it is done by people who haven't really been in the trenches to do it. They've just, have some book knowledge and put it in a course. This is up to date, absolutely 100% up to date. John literally just finished. Actually, there's a couple videos he's going to finish off tomorrow at the end. So this is up to date. Training by someone who truly has done it in the trenches. This is the best YouTube training you're going to find on the internet right now. So grab it, put it into action, and start making some money with it.
Yeah, we give a massive discount on Instant Video Wizard. So let me just put that in the chat box so you can see everything that you get with the Prosperative membership. But remember, if you're going to join the Prosperative membership, please do it from this special offer page, because you'll save $20 a month. Please don't use the wrong link. I'm going to try and answer Alex's question because he's getting a bit upset with us. He's put a few questions in. We're trying to get to everybody, Alex. Well, I think it's I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, to be honest. How long does it take to go through the course? The average length of the video is 8 to 10 minutes, and there's going to be about 20 of them. So you're looking at less than 4 hours. However, it depends on how often you review the video. Some people may want to watch a video 2 or 3 times, but a minimum, let's say, of 4 hours to go through everything. And of course, that does depend on your existing level of knowledge. If you already know certain things, you might be able to skip some. So that's the sort of approximate.
So you could be through all the training and have your channel up and have your first video or 2 up in 1 day. That's how quick you could be moving forward with this.
Yeah, and honestly, you know what? When you make your first video, you're not going to be totally happy with it, and you'll keep getting better. So you have to be willing to make your first video and accept that your second video will be better still, and your third video is going to be even better. If you try to wait until your first video is perfect, you ain't going to do it.
Right? Yeah, and don't get into analysis paralysis, though, because like we said earlier, the content's what's really important anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at the videos that you view yourself and ask yourself, what makes you watch them? Is it really the bells and whistles and the fancy transitions? They're nice to have, or is it the content and the way the person is talking to you with a bit of enthusiasm and making the subject sound interesting and exciting and something that you want to listen to? It's really the content, and I think you all know that anyway. That's why we keep saying content is king. Michael, yes, you can have videos made for you if you want to. How much that costs depends on the type of videos, but I would always recommend people to make their own. By the way, The recipe guy I showed you who's funneling people to Amazon, I think almost all his videos, or most of the videos, particularly the recipe ones, he's not on camera. He doesn't even speak. He just shows you his pan, and he shows you the onions going in, then he stirs it, then he shows you something else going in, and he stirs it, and he has a bit of text on screen. They're really, really easy to make. Anything else have I missed, Josh? I think we've probably covered most.
Is there a case study in the training, or is it just informative training? It's informative training based on John's own case study, I guess you could say, his own experience that he's actually going through right now. And so,
yeah, it is John's.
both.
Yeah, it is case study, except that we're not telling you what his channel is, and there's various reasons for that. One is that it's not primarily a money channel; it's an activism channel. The other is that whenever we've shown sites in the past, whether it's YouTube or niche sites or whatever, there's always somebody who's going to go out and spoil it by stealing all our content. We've seen that. I had that on my own YouTube channel recently. I've kind of left it for some years because I got bored. But I looked at it recently, and somebody has stolen all my videos. Now, I've made that particular channel known publicly in the past on webinars and so on, and I don't know who's done it, but it's not nice to see. And the problem is, if you do that, if you show people these things, somebody's going to go out and spoil it for us. So although you're not going to see his channel, everything that he tells you is based on the case study of his own channel, where he's made mistakes, which he's admitted to earlier. He's found the way around those mistakes, then he tells you how to avoid them. So it is a case study and an informational video series at the same time.
I'm sure a few people will dig it up, but Alex Sidorin, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, said, are all the videos available now, or are they going to be drip fed over time? They're all available now.
All available now, yeah, absolutely. You can watch them all in one sitting if you've got time. If you've got 4 hours and you want to do it. I would actually probably suggest you sort of digest them a little bit more slowly than that personally, but if you have the time, maybe at the weekend, you could do them all in a day and have your first video online the same day as Josh just mentioned. For me personally, I like to, digest a bit more. Go ahead.
Anna says she's a member of Prosperative. How does she get, well, actually she's asking how does she get to Prosperative, but well, you would do that by going to prosperative.com/join and then click the login link. But to access the video training, once you log in, the next time you log in, you're going to see a pop-up in your membership area, and it's going to give you a link that goes straight to the video training.
Yeah, it comes up a little pop-up and it says click here to see them, and then it will take you to where they're all listed, and you can just view as many as you want, or as few as you want, and as many times as you want. So it's all there for you. She's just seen it. She's logged in and seen the link. That's great. Stephen is saying this is an unusual course because he's seen the ones that sell software in the past, but success is not about software, it's about content. So he's never seen a course like this. Thank you, Stephen. That's a great comment.
And April says the YouTube course is only $47. It's a no-brainer for anyone.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's going up midnight Friday, not tomorrow. I keep saying tomorrow. Midnight Friday, the 26th. So
yeah, that's not going to remain 47. So you need to get it now. It is going to go up.
Jan's asking a great question. Any information about how to write scripts for video? John actually talks about the way you should be talking to your audience and so on. That's not specifically about writing the scripts for video, but it is about the way you deliver the content. If we get enough people asking about writing the scripts for video, we might add an additional video for that. And if we do that, that will be included in the price. It's one of those things which people overcomplicate sometimes and think they have to be word perfect, and you really don't. You really don't.
Several people asked about the Prosperative membership. Several people who are already members. So yeah, the price is free for Prosperative members. It is already added. So go log in and you'll find it. Yeah,
it's all there for you. And of course, as Prosperative members in the forum there, you can ask us questions. We have a Q&A section in the main board for the videos. And if you do have questions, please put them in there because we'll be happy to answer them. If we don't know the answer, we'll go find out. If it's something that none of us knows at all, John will probably test it on his channel. And one other thing I completely forgot to mention. Oh man, there's so much. We've got so much that we're offering. I'm sorry about this. I forgot to mention. Anybody who joins Prosperative, so this is if you join the monthly Prosperative membership, John has said that he will do approximately monthly to 6 weekly webinars where you can ask him about YouTube. And if he's uncovered something new, he will share that with you. So that's for Prosperity members. So that's worth a great deal on its own, but that's included. I'd completely forgot about that, because we had so much to talk about.
And we didn't even have to talk John into doing that. He
No,
voluntarily
he
did.
offered it.
So it's going to be good stuff, I'm sure. I mean, it always is, but just the fact that he's excited to do it is a good thing. And well, there was one I was just about to read and I lost it.
Yeah, it's scrolling pretty fast,
Oh,
so we have to.
does this course? We need to quit. We've gone way over. But James,
I know, as usual.
he asks, does this course help with starting any niche? There is a video that talks about choosing your market and things like that. So John, I mean, it's pretty in depth. He goes over just about anything you can think of.
Yeah, ultimately though, James, you're going to have to pick a niche yourself that you feel you can sustain the effort in. But once you've done that, and you've got interests, of course, I mean, we all do. So once you've done that, John's telling you how to use these techniques to make the most of these niches. And, we can't tell you what niche to be in, but in reality, it doesn't matter whether it's worm farming, activism, recipes, um, photography. I mean, you've all seen these videos on YouTube. You know that there's everything under the sun. Everything under the sun. So whatever your niche is, even if it's something really, really extremely niche, it doesn't matter. You've got about 2 billion people a month logging in. Some of them are going to be interested, and they're the ones you're appealing to. So yes, it's not niche related. The training actually is, I'm trying to think of the right phrase, it covers a broad spectrum. It's not related to just John's niche. What he's done is extract the formula for doing well on YouTube, whatever the niche may be. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Any other questions I need to deal with, Josh? Have you seen anything?
I think we've pretty much covered them all.
And as usual, we've gone way over, so I appreciate the indulgence, everybody. Thank you very much for sticking with us, which most of you have. And I know we go over, but I appreciate that you've stayed with us. There's just a lot to share. We will be sending out a replay, so if you've missed anything, there'll be a replay, and you'll be able to ask us some questions. But do remember, please, and this is important, there is a time limit. It's time limited, okay? So you've got to do this before midnight Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time, Friday, the 26th of July. If you miss out, then you're going to miss out on the pricing. You're going to pay extra. So the time to take action is right now, because on Friday after midnight, you will pay more. That's an automatic thing. The price will roll over. As soon as midnight comes around, the price is going up. You will have missed it. So please, if you've any interest at all, have a go now. Click on the links. And just one last time, I'm going to show you the link. And I'm putting that in the chat box. And for one last time, I'll explain that the orange one is the monthly membership to Prosperity at $47 a month, saving you $20 a month. And the yellow one is the access to the YouTube training video series on its own. It's a one-time purchase, just $47. So take your pick, choose whichever suits you best. And we look forward to seeing you on the inside of either of those. By the way, the welcome email that you get, whichever of these you choose, please check your spam folder just in case it goes there by accident. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Bye now.